Welcome to the At Heart YouTube channel, where we share tactical advice to help you grow your small business and as an entrepreneur. My name is Brighton Udy, and if you'd like to stay up to date on all of our future videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and hit the like button if you really enjoy this video. So you've got a great idea, you've crunched some numbers, and now you're ready to start your business, but you need a name. How do you know that you have a great name for your business? How do you know that that name is really going to reflect what you do? It's a really tough thing, and to be honest, in my opinion, this is the hardest part of branding. Naming your company is one of the hardest things that you will have to do in branding or marketing ever. Because if you think about it, that name has to last a long time. And at the end of the day is going to be the first line of representation of your business. So how do you make sure that this name is the right name for your business? That's exactly what we are going to talk about today. So what are some of the things that we need to consider when naming your company? The first one is figuring out really what you want your brand to say. What do you want that name to resemble and represent for your brand and for your business? The way that we do this is every single client that we start with, we work them through what we call the brand clarity framework. And I've talked a little bit about it in previous videos where we really structure the brand spirit first. So that's the why, the core principles, the core meaning systems that really make up the brand's spirit. Just like a person, right? Every person has a spirit, every brand should have a spirit as well. Also, just like a person, that brand should have a personality, something that makes it unique and helps the brand connect with their perfect customer. So that's the second piece that we have in the brand clarity framework. And then the third and final piece is the brand's story. So that really talks about how the brand is going to help their perfect customer transform into the state that they are looking to transform into. It's their desired outcomes. So we talk about how the brand can help them get from point A to point B within the brand story. Having these pieces figured out beforehand using the brand clarity framework helps a ton with determining really what you want your brand to say, and thus helping you understand what you really want the name of your brand to say. So we always start there. We figure out with what is the why of the brand? What are we really trying to achieve? What do we really want the reputation of the brand to be? And what is the story looking like for that brand to help their perfect customers transform into their desired state? So we start there with what you want your brand to say, what you want the name of your brand to say. So spending some time going through a process similar to that, it's a wonderful way to help get your bearings on where you really want your brand's direction to go. So if this is something that you're interested in, we actually have an online course called the Brand Clarity Masterclass, and I will put the link in the description below so that you can take a look at that. And that's exactly the process that I take every single client through before we name a company, because it's really important to have the direction and the ideas and the meaning systems before you take any action naming your company. The second piece to think about when naming your company or your brand is what type of name that you want to use to represent your business. There's a great TED Talk by a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Bell that I'll also put in the description below, where he talks about the different types of names that really successful brands use. And there's 7 types of names that Jonathan Bell talks about in this video. The first type of name is an actual name. So if you think of Disney, it's actually Walter Elias Disney's last name. And that is a great example of a name that can be used as a brand. That is really the name of the company, right? It's Disney. Tesla is another example. Even though that company was not founded by Tesla, it pays homage to his electrical technological advancements, and that's exactly what Tesla is trying to do in present day, right? So your name or a name is a great way to build a brand if you are going to be a large part of that. A lot of accounting firms and law firms use this type of name for their firm. So that's one option. The second type of name that you could use is called a descriptive name. Names like the Home Depot, American Airlines, they speak directly to what the company does and who they're really trying to serve. So that's the second type of name that you could use to name your business. Another type of name is an acronym. Typically, these types of names are an evolution of a name. So take KFC, for example. They used to be called Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then they just shortened it to KFC. BP is another example. British Petroleum, just shortened down. And GE was General Electric. So typically, these names have been around for an extended period of time, and they end up shortening them to make them a little bit more current or contemporary and a little bit more in line with the times. So this is a name type that you could use, but is typically used after the brand has been around for a while and the name has become a little bit more familiar. So the fourth type of name is a suggestive name. They could be real words, composite words, or even invented words, but they are more suggestive about what the brand does. So as an example, Kleenex is a completely invented word that has now become synonymous with the facial tissue. That's really what it is, but everybody calls it Kleenex because the brand has established itself as the leader in facial tissue, which is fascinating. Another example of an invented word would be Pinterest. It's a little bit of a compound word, but the way it's spelt is it's pretty much invented. So you think of pinning things to a bulletin board, and it's something that you're interested in. So they've kind of compounded that word into something that's a little bit more suggestive about what the social media platform is going to be. Facebook and Ray-Ban are examples of composite words that have been put together in order to make one brand word. If you've watched The Social Network, there's a really interesting scene where Facebook used to be called The Facebook for an extended period of time until the team decided that if we dropped the, Facebook would just sound and ring a little bit more true. So that's another thing to think about. If you can create a name that can evolve and change and is a little bit more flexible, it's a great way to start building your brand and get that name out there. The fifth type of name that you could use is called an associative name. Associative names, as an example, would be SiriusXM. Sirius is the brightest star in the galaxy, and SiriusXM is shining a light on the brightest stars in music. Another example would be Red Bull. Red Bull is really trying to emulate and exemplify what the experience is going to be like after you consume their drink. You're going to be like Red Bull. You're going to have the energy. You're going to be able to conquer whatever comes in your way. That's really what they're trying to exemplify with the name of Red Bull. So an associative name is another example of a type of name that you can use to build your brand. The sixth type of name that you could use is a non-English name. I'll use a personal example here where I'm a co-founder of another company that we call Tillin. What Tillin is a charitable social fundraising platform where we allow nonprofits, businesses, and individuals to connect with each other to raise money for the nonprofits. And when we were trying to figure out a name that was short and really reflected what the platform and the product and the business was all about, we had to start to turn outside of the English language to try and find a word that hadn't already been used or taken. And so what I found was a Dutch word called Tillin. And what Tillin means is to lift or to raise. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to lift up the community. We're trying to lift up the nonprofits and trying to lift up the individuals that really want to make a difference in the world. So that's where we found a non-English word that reflected what we really wanted to exemplify and articulate for the business. And so that's an example of a non-English word that could be used as a company name. The seventh and last example that Jonathan Bell talks about in his TED Talk of a type of name that you could use is an abstract name. An example of an abstract name would be Kodak. That is not a real word, but when you think about it, Kodak sounds like the sound a camera makes when you take a picture. So if you think about how your product sounds or what type of sounds reflect what you want your brand to sound like, an abstract name could be a really great route to go. You could create a name that sounds like your product, which is really what Kodak tried to create with their name. So those are the 7 types of names that you could use in order to name your company. But there are 2 more things that I would make sure that you consider before you land on a name. The first one is, if you can help it, keep it short. I cannot stress this enough. We want your brand's name to be easily memorable. We want people to remember your name. We want them to walk away from one ad and immediately be able to go, that's so-and-so, that's that company. And they only need to see it one time in order to remember it. So it's really important to make sure that you create a name that people can remember. Keeping it short is the best way to do that. On the other hand, it's also really tough to find names that are not taken already. In today's age, we need to make sure that your brand's name has a domain that is also easy to remember and is also short if we can help it. What's great is now that there are several different types of domain endings, it can be a little bit easier to find your business's home on the internet. But what I would do is make sure that you search your name in Google Domains. So if you're trying to create your website or your online store, whatever your business is, and you're looking to create a website, look for the domain before you register the name, okay? Look for the domain before you register the name. Seriously, do this. If you find a name that you think is really, really great and it perfectly reflects your brand, look for the domain first before you go and register that name, because honestly, the number of times that I've seen businesses use weird domain endings, it just doesn't work, and it makes it super complicated. Having dashes or underscores or anything like that in your domain also just makes it super tough to say your domain out loud. Visit us at www.blank-blank-com. It doesn't work. So there are some other alternative domain names, domain endings that have become a little bit more popular. For example, if you're doing an online academy or an online university, you can do a .academy domain. For @heart, we use an @heart.co domain. With Tillin, we do tillin.co. That .co is starting to replace, and maybe not replace, but it's becoming as synonymous with .com very quickly. So that is something to consider. Is just think about if that domain, if that name is taken by anybody else in your industry, and it's super easy to look up if you go to googledomains.com and just type in the domain that you want. And what will be nice is it'll also give you alternatives to that domain. Just make sure that the domain is easy to remember and easy to hear and then put into someone's web browser. So that's something else to consider. I hope that this video has helped you come up with a name that really reflects your brand and is going to be a great representation of your business. It's a really tough go trying to find a name for a company. It is one of the hardest things that you will have to do from the branding side of things. But honestly, if you spend the time, do the work on the front end to determine what your meaning systems are and your brand spirit, personality, and story, that will really, really help you come out on the other side with a clear understanding of what you want your brand to say. And then you can choose a name from the 7 name types that is short and easy to remember. So hope this helps. If you would like to stay up to date on all future videos, subscribe below, hit the bell. And also, if you'd like to go through the brand clarity framework, hit the link in the description. It'll take you right to the Brand Clarity Masterclass, which is filled with over 2 hours of online guided video content. And it also comes with a comprehensive workbook to guide you through each exercise. You will complete your brand clarity framework, and it also has 2 added bonuses in there, which is a secret website layout and a social media cheat sheet, which will help spring you into action and give you a clear direction to start marketing and growing your brand. So if you'd like to learn more about the Brand Clarity Masterclass online course, the link is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you next week here on the @HeartCo YouTube channel.